So, welcome. Let us just take a moment of silence before we start the reading for today. So, we'll start with the opening aspiration. Just a moment. Yes, so let's go through the opening aspiration once again to set our motivation right. So, would anyone want to read it?
With boundless compassion and wisdom, I will work for the welfare of all. May we be free from hunger and discord and have joy and a world at peace.
Yeah, thank you. So, today we have to wind up verse 11, and maybe if we have time, then we can start with verse 12 also today itself. Yeah, so just going through verse 11, what was it? Just to have a refreshing of our memory. All suffering without exception arises from desiring happiness for oneself, while perfect Buddhahood is born from the thought of benefiting others. Therefore, to really exchange my own happiness for the suffering of others is the practice of a Bodhisattva. So last time and last to last time also we were reflecting upon this practice of Tonglen, where we take in suffering of all others, and also when I am suffering myself and I get conscious of my suffering, maybe a headache, physical pain or physical suffering, or mental emotional suffering, maybe a breakup in a relationship and hurt to the ego, and all kinds of things that happen to us. If I'm going through that and I taste my own pain, and in that I can connect that, like this how I suffer, so many of us also suffer. So now I understand their pain, now I see their suffering. So then we can take it all in, like with the in breath we take all that suffering in, not bothering about ourselves, because that bothering about ourselves is what is that black pearl that Jetsunma mentions is present in the front of the heart, and which gets dissolved when we take this suffering in. And when we exhale, then we wish everything, lots of peace, everybody, lots of peace and happiness and progress, and all the good things. And we also visualize that that black pearl has transmuted now into a diamond, kind of shining brightly because of taking in that suffering, shining brightly, and so that it can spread that light to everyone. So basically, this verse was mostly about Tonglen, and coming to the part where we last left, which was here. So here Jetsunma was sharing that each place has its own energy, and it is the mind space that we have in that physical space that gives it that energy or that vibration. So if we go to Nazi camp or where concentration camps where lots of atrocious things happened, and people had lots of fear and suffering and anxiety and grief in the mind, there is a different kind of energy that we can sense, and it's because of that mind force that is there. So we'll continue from that and take up maybe a couple of paragraphs here today. So yeah, starting from, similarly, if we go to Auschwitz or any of these kind of places. So if anyone would like to read, please go ahead.
Similarly, if we go to Auschwitz or any of these kinds of places where something awful happened, there's actually nothing much there. It is just buildings and photos of people who were interned and died there, but nothing more. And yet, We just know that tragedy occurred in this place. The atmosphere is so dark and heavy. The feeling of fear, suffering, and grief are still palpable because of all the awful things that happened, and the pain is all the people who have visited over since. We can feel that something horrible happened there. The outer form of a place might not be anything threatening or anything special, but the mind force can be felt there. Whether the energy is something positive, full of love and devotion, or something negative like fear and hatred, it lingers there. We should be careful with our thoughts. Go on.
Yes.
When in a situation where there is a lot of fear and paranoia, where there is anger and hatred, please do not connect with that dark energy. In the face of anger and fear, give out loving kindness and compassion. We don't need to plug into and increase the paranoia. It doesn't help. Becoming fearful and paranoid is just increasing the problem. What what we all really need to do is replace the negative energy with positive energy, send out loving kindness. Cover the whole country, the whole globe with golden light of love and healing, not more, not more and more dark energy. Please. Our thoughts have power, so make it a light, positive power, not a dark, negative one. Practice fearless compassion.
Thank you. So we stop here, take a break here. So many a times, we have situations in our day-to-day life where maybe at workplace or in our family, two or three people are kind of, interacting with each other, and there is a kind of a negativity that begins to kind of develop because of those ego clashes. So usually what happens is that if I don't have goodwill, and I also have a kind of a bad taste in the sense that मजा आएगा अगर अभी ये लड़ाई होगी ना यहाँ पे आपस में तो मजा आएगा, we do have such kind of taste. So हम ऐसी चीजों में अगर मजा लेते हैं, then we can't transmute all that darkness into positivity because we don't want it, right? So if our taste has changed, if we know that no, I take these vows every day, or I look at these every week, the vows of the Bodhisattva, or how to practice like a Bodhisattva, then we can remind ourselves that why am I taking this bad taste in, so we focus on something positive and we can actually change. I think I have a memory of such kind of incidents in family or at workplaces where something negative is beginning to develop, but if some person comes, and he has a good will and good intention, he can actually focus on the positive and chalo chodo chodo matlab, kind of aage badho, and that dark energy can kind of we can evade that dark energy for at least some moments. We don't know, we can of course grab it up again. So as much as possible we can do this, that whenever we feel that there is a dark energy, there is a negative kind of a feeling or energy or a mood that is beginning to develop, whether at workplace because of ego clashes or in family because of people not agreeing with each other, to inhale that suffering. And you have to do it of course silently, quietly. You are not telling anybody that I am doing this, right? So this doesn't boost our ego, because when I don't share it with anyone, then I'm not boosting my ego. I'm not doing it because of I want to claim it, that look, I did the good thing. So just doing it silently, the other person may not know, but suddenly maybe he feels lighter and can let go of that zid or that stubbornness that he may be sticking to. So we should do that because we have read these words by Jetsunma, we have read these verses, and we have knowledge that ye kiya ja sakta hai, we can do it. So why not make good use of our precious human birth? Otherwise, it's not precious at all. What are we doing which is so precious? Just promoting all the negativity, that is nothing precious. But if we are able to take in all the negativity and transmute it, that may that person's heart be happy and glad and easy, then many a times होता क्या है कि हमें अपने जो loved ones होते हैं, our relatives, we want to tell them that look, I am feeling very I'm praying very heavily for you, that you will be well soon. So actually this is not needed. At times it may be needed because maybe the person requires that consolation, but most of the prayers we can actually go on doing silently, because whenever we speak about a prayer too much, then it half of it turns into a kind of a ego boost, and really no intensity is there of that transmutation. So if you care for your loved ones, your relatives, don't tell them. If you feel concerned about them, don't tell them. Every day pray for them, in the sense that if they are suffering, may their suffering come into me, and may they have a glad heart and a happy and easy heart. We can do this. This doesn't require anything. No money, no shopping, no physical space change, no laptop, no computer. Nothing is required. It's just we require our own self, and we have it. Yeah. So anything here? Anyone?
I have, I've been around people who are so wonderful in only seeing the positive aspects and things. Like they will not, like they will be with people, some of them in my families only, where they could be with person with whom nobody can see the positive, like you can only see. But that person can actually see the positive only. That, for example, there's somebody in the house who's very complaining all the time about things and all, and I have this uncle who's very good in seeing the beauty around, and even I get annoyed, like all the time complains. Like it's hard to be with somebody who's always complaining about things. Traffic is bad. And then one thing changed. He told me that really changed my perspective about people who complain. He said, "But look, whatever he's complaining is right. There shouldn't be traffic. There shouldn't be this. So his intention is good. He wants to have a world where there's no traffic, or that people should be good. People should not cheat. People should not be late. So even if the complaining on his part is wrong, but look at the root." And I thought, wow, like and I was so overwhelmed by the complaining. So, and I've also seen when the uncle is around with people, the best side of the people of all of us come. So even if like if there is, like as you said, if there is any discord or this thing, when he is present, somehow everything is smooth. And like I see it and I really appreciate it. That how you know how if we can actually manifest the good in everybody around us just by not associating with the lack, no matter how strong the lack in the other person, but just only seeing the good. And that also made me realize that it was so much read, like but there was this thing Alok's lecture where he was saying that the what we see in other people is actually what's in us. So other people are our mirror. That we have all of us have small Talibanis inside of us. He used an example, and I thought, how is it possible? Like I used to think, but then that actually made me clear that that's so true. That there could be a terrorist in front of you, and the world can say terrorist, but you could see the best in the terrorist too, and maybe that's how you can become a saint, because you're not associating with the lack or the negative, but with the highest that's there. So that's very true. I've seen in actually practical life how it can be done.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions or any reflections? Anybody wants to add on anything here? So this also resonates with the mother's vision of education, where she shares it should be near to far. So near is that aspect of, for example, a child or a person, where, for example, things he's already good at. So as you were sharing about your uncle, or that how he has this ability to see goodness wherever possible. So each person, each one of us, no matter how dumb and stupid we may appear, or how hopeless we may appear, each one of us has some other good quality which we can start with. So giving that person tasks which he is good at, rather than thinking that oh इसको ये नहीं आता वो नहीं आता और उसके उसमें ये बैड है वो उसमें ये ठीक नहीं है कैलकुलेट नहीं कर सकता खड़ा नहीं रह सकता सीधा. So rather than looking at the bad points or sad points, we can start from where he is good at, the near aspect, because for those areas it would be effortless for him, कि यहाँ पे तो मैं अच्छा ही हूँ ठीक हूँ. So we start with that. We encourage those, we kind of nurture those abilities in the child or in an adult. And then we slowly, when he gains confidence and has further physical or mental ability, then we can stretch him into areas where he was earlier not good at. But now, because of that confidence in him, that no, मैं कर सकता हूँ, I can also do it. So slowly we take it into far. So from near to far. This is also one of the things that Sri Aurobindo and Mother share in education. Not only education for children, we are educating throughout our life. So even for adults, it holds true that जिसको जिस भी पॉइंट में वो बंदा स्ट्रांग है उसको वहां से पकड़ना, वहां से आपने अपलिफ्ट किया, उठाया कि हाँ तू बिल्कुल बेकार नहीं है, ये भी कर सकता है वो भी कर सकता है, तो यहाँ से शुरू करो और धीरे 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 you can expand his capacities and of course applicable to each one of us. So nobody is absolutely hopeless and worthless. Each one of us have something or the other which is innately good and we have it. And actually Jetsunma somewhere shares that even the worst of criminals or terrorists or whoever we may see, I think yes, Sri Aurobindo in Tales of Prison Life, he shares that he saw in those criminals who were there labeled as criminals and in the prison, he saw a lot of goodness and goodwill in those prisoners and lots of generosity. So he learned from them a lot. Yeah.
Reminds me of Tara Didi as well. I remember in one of the YouTube as well, was listening to her conversation in which she was saying that she was not good in academics and studies, and she went to the mother and told that mother, I'm not good at studies. And like, if you studies, we have made such big, even though we keep saying, oh, it doesn't matter if your child is good on something, but if a child says, Mom, I don't want to go into school, I'm leaving, like, even the strongest, even myself, if my child come, I will have, like, my ground will be shaken a little bit, that what will he do? But mother, not even and of course she was a divine mother, and she said, okay, what you're good at? And she said, I like photography, and mother gave her the camera, or provided, made sure, and she started doing photography and so many other things. And now I see that somebody who thought is not good in academics and did not want to, is running, is Padam, she is now running the school, which is like, so I mean, exactly what you said, from near to far. So yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, true. So this scale actually that we have taken, that अगर ये subjects नहीं पढ़ पा रहे हो तो तुम एक बुद्धू हो या तुम्हें इंसान होने का हक नहीं है, ये scale ही हमारा खराब है. So slowly this has to change, and as we were discussing that any area that we are good at, लेकिन ये है कि वहां पे फिर हम लेजीनेस नहीं करें. वहां पे एक्चुअली, सिंस यू टुक द एग्जांपल ऑफ तारा दीदी, so she worked very hard, she created actually a discipline for herself, which mother would ask, अच्छा आज ये किया था and tick mark also. So there was a discipline that was made about the physical education part, and maybe the office administration की कितने बच्चों का क्या, so that thing she was doing nicely. So जो भी करें हम अच्छे से करें, है ना. हम क्या करते हैं कि हमको ये पता लग जाता है कि मुझे ये नहीं करना, बट क्या करना है वो हम नहीं जान पाते, और उसकी वजह से फिर हम एक लेजी और इनर्शिया और तमस में चले जाते हैं, निठल्लेपन में चले जाते हैं. सो वो अलाउ नहीं करना चाहिए हमें अपने आप को, बिकॉज दैट पुल्स अस डाउन. या तो ये नहीं करना, तो अब ये पता होना चाहिए कि क्या करना है. वही जो आप बात कर रहे थे ना, कि अब क्या करना है वो अच्छे से करो. अच्छा कारपेंटर बनना है तो कारपेंटरी का काम अच्छे से सीखो, है ना. ट्रैवल करना है तो ट्रैवल अच्छे से, फोटोग्राफी है तो जो भी है वो अच्छे से. And I think mother, when she used to dictate a lot of quotations to little children, one of the quotations that she spoke not from her directly, is that always do with interest whatever you are doing. And then she says that to have interest in whatever you are doing, you must try to do it better and better. तो अब जो भी काम हमारे हाथ में है, ऑल ऑफ अस टुडे हु आर लिसनिंग, कि जो भी काम है, अब क्योंकि हम कर ही रहे हैं, है ना, तो उसको वी मस्ट ट्राई टू डू इट बेटर एंड बेटर. एंड व्हेन वी ट्राई टू डू इट बेटर एंड बेटर, देन कम्स द थर्ड लाइन, then we actually get joy in that particular whatever thing that we are doing. So first we take interest. How to take interest? You try to do it better and better, and then we try to do it better and better. It actually gives us joy, because progress gives all of us joy. Whenever we progress, it gives us joy. Yeah. So just continuing then here, let us take a little forward. Our thoughts have great power. Who would like to read? Anyone? Maybe you can finish this all off at once. Our thoughts have great power. Yes, Ritu.
Our thoughts have great power, and a Tonglen is a practice that is motivated totally on compassion. Its genuine result not only benefits the person who is the object of the practice, but it also helps to highlight and reduce our own egoistic self concern. This quality of selfless love that we develop really opens our heart to the suffering of the world and allows us to breathe it in and give out all the goodness within ourselves to other beings without any reservations. This is our challenge. It is both a foundational challenge and a challenge leading to the ultimate achievement, realization, or awakening. Dilgo Kyanthis Rinpoche explains, some people may have the idea that these teachings on compassion and exchanging self and others are part of the gradual path teachings of the sutras and are not nearly as effective as the more advanced direct path teachings of the great perfection or the great seal. That is a complete misunderstanding. Only if you have developed the love and compassion of relative bodhicitta can absolute bodhicitta, the very essence of the great perfection and the great seal, ever take birth in your being. In other words, the practice of compassion is essential to the successful practice of Mahamudra or Dzogchen. Below is the Tonglen practice in a sense. May it be of benefit to you and all other sentient beings. Visualize someone who is suffering. With the in breath, imagine taking in all their suffering and the causes of their suffering in the form of dark light or polluted smoke. This dark light descends with the inhalation to the heart chakra at the center of the chest. It takes shape as a small black pearl, symbolizing the self cherishing mind. The black pearl immediately dissolves and is transformed into a brilliant diamond, symbolizing our Buddha nature. On the outbreath, imagine that this diamond radiates a bright light that goes out and dissolves into the person being visualized, filling every cell of their body and mind with the clear, bright light of health and happiness.
Yeah, thank you. So, so again, knowing that we have the power of our thoughts all the time with us, And if we want, if we now are convinced, then we can use it for a good purpose. So all the time being conscious of our thoughts and not indulging in the negative loopy thinking, because if we do that, then we don't feel like we have the power to do what we really want to do, which is to benefit other beings. Now we see that, in prayers and meditations, we were reflecting upon all this, the idea of impersonality and not thinking too much about ourselves, because we see that the moment we begin to think too much about ourselves, all our worries and miseries start. And the moment, for even for a moment, if I am out of the picture, my story, my relatives, my family, my this thing, all of that is, if for a moment I have forgotten about it and I'm involved in something, then we see that we are not suffering anymore. So knowing that all the billions and trillions of sentient beings, they suffer because of this, because just like I suffer when I obsessively focus on myself and my story and what will happen of me, like that all the other beings also suffer when they think obsessively about me, about their own self. And this is the cause of suffering, right? So she says that when we are visualizing this, that we also say that may their suffering and the causes of their suffering, because of the causes the suffering gets repeated, it comes again and again. So may all their suffering and the causes of their suffering may come to me like a dark smoke. And why it will come to me? Because now, for the very first time in my life, or maybe glimpses of some moments earlier also, but for the very first time in my life now, I don't want to think about what will happen of me. I have done that enough, and that is misery, I know. So I don't want to obsessively be bothered about me, and that is why I can do this practice. There is no problem me doing this practice. So we don't have to fear that, oh, what would happen, because if we are fearing, it means that black pearl is in action, that is present in our heart. But the very idea is to dissolve the black pearl also, because that black pearl cannot stand. Ego cannot take in everybody's suffering. It will say, what will happen of me? So the center that we are operating from is a different center. It's a higher center, and it dissolves the self-cherishing mind. Means that it takes care of our obsession with our little self. Mera kya hoga? So for this moment, I am not bothering about myself. And we see that how powerfully actually this technique not only may send healing vibrations to others, actually it is very healing on ourselves also. Because it is ego which is our wound. ईगो हमारा एक घाव है, और उस घाव को ये मलहम की तरह हील करता है, टोंगलन प्रैक्टिस. So I think maybe towards the end we can also spend some maybe 10 minutes or so in actually doing this practice, so that we can also get a taste of it together. So let's see what else is here. Yeah, so it also helps to highlight and reduce our egotistic self-concern. Now I am not concerned about my own thing anymore. And this again, in Buddhism, they have a relative bodhicitta and then the absolute bodhicitta. But all Jetsunma is sharing that don't think that you can jump directly to the absolute. All these relative preliminary practices are very, very important. We have to do that, cultivate them. Yeah. So anything anyone wants to add on here before we do the practice together? Any thoughts or concerns regarding the practice, or maybe some reflections that you want to add on?
I had a question. I just wanted to ask that why is it that even after doing relative years of spiritual practice, this tendency of thinking negatively, like the first thought will be negative. The mind is as if it's programmed, even though we know that, the divine is the essence of our being. That is the foundation on which everything is. But why is it that for the mind, everything is like, first thought will be negative. If you hear that, oh, you have corona, the first thing, oh my god, will I die, or yeah, like small things. Or if something happens, if somebody says, oh, this, like if you are relying on somebody and if they'll say, sorry, this won't happen, you get a shock and your mind will start going into, rather than thinking positively. And you have to make an effort, conscious effort, to actually bring it to height, to say no, like, no, I'm not going to think like this, I'm going to think like this. But why is it that even after, like, after spiritual, and I've spoken with people who have been, of course, in many years, and they would say that yes, to us as also it happens. It's a practice that we continuously, that is why continuously it has to be. It can't be, you can never say, oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Because at any moment the mind can come back and go into that. But why is it?
I think this the answer I feel that we get in mother's story of creation. So when mother shares her story of creation, that there was this one supreme, say Brahman, or the one who only is, and then he, just for the play of it, for having fun and to enjoy the otherness, he extended out of himself this divine mother, or Aditi, or the Shakti, the force, the Shakti aspect, Aditi. And then he gave the task of creation to the mother, or the Aditi. And then Aditi, out of herself, created these four powers, which are like truth and bliss, truth, bliss, uh, immortality, and maybe truth, bliss. Yeah, it will come to me. Maybe so opposite of love, maybe hate. So uh, actually, the powers were all the good powers. So there was truth, there was bliss, there was eternity, immortality, and there was this joy or love, or whatever you can call it. Now what happens, that these, all the four powers, mother says, that they went out and started to create manifestation, but they upturned, like they disconnected from the source. कि मम्मी पापा ने आपको पैसे दिए कि जाके ब्रेड बटर ले आ, तुम्हें लगा कि भैया अब तो मेरे पास है पैसे, अब मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ उस पैसे का, ड्रग्स भी ले सकता हूँ या कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ. So in that sense, they got disconnected from mummy papa, or loyalty to mummy papa, and all these powers, because of that disconnection, they upturned. So truth became falsehood, love became hate, and bliss became suffering, and immortality became mortality. And that is why we see even in nature that आपको डस्ट अपने कपड़ों पे चढ़ानी नहीं पड़ती है, डस्ट आपके कपड़ों पे चढ़ जाती है, आपको डस्टिंग करनी पड़ती है. है ना? और गार्डनिंग करते हैं तो गार्डनिंग में आपको क्या करना पड़ता है, आपको अच्छे सीड्स लगाने पड़ते हैं और वीडिंग करनी पड़ती है. वीड लगानी नहीं पड़ती, आपको वीड अपने आप हो जाती है. और वीड को न्यूट्रिशन भी मिल जाता है, आपने कोई खाद नहीं डाली, आप पानी भी मत दो उस गमले को, लेकिन वो वीड कुछ ना कुछ जुगाड़ करके अपना उग जाएगी. And then you will have to uproot the weed and plant the good seeds which of flowers or of vegetables that you want to have. And this uprooting you will have to do continuously, क्योंकि अगर 2 महीने तक नहीं देखा तो मतलब उसमें जंगल उग चुका होगा और वो आपको uproot करना पड़ेगा. So this is because this is the design of creation. And that is why we need heroism. नहीं तो otherwise आप देखो ना, heroism की क्या जरूरत है. अगर अच्छी चीजें एफर्टलेस हो जाएं तो आपके हीरोइज्म की कोई जरूरत ही नहीं है. No? So I found lots of solace in this story of creation by the mother, that अब समझ में आया कि अच्छा सब उल्टा ही है एक्चुअली में, और एफर्ट करना पड़ेगा, लास्ट मोमेंट तक एफर्ट करना पड़ेगा. एंड दिस वी सी इन आवर हाउस होल्ड थिंग्स ऑल्सो, कि आपको डस्टिंग करनी पड़ती है हर 3-4 दिन बाद, और वेर एवर डिपेंडिंग ऑन द लोकेशन, यू हैव टू clean things, organize things. By itself, they will become chaotic, disorganized, untidy. But if you have a discipline, then you will be able to keep them in order. The moment they become untidy, you bring them in order. The moment they become untidy, you bring them in order. यही तो कर रहे हैं हम सब घर में और अपने अंदर, यही तो कर रहे हैं, और क्या कर रहे हैं. So now we have to take it as a fact कि भैया design of creation यही है. तो
Mhm.
अब हम क्या टूल्स और क्या चीजें कर सकते हैं कि पता है कि यही रहना है, अभी तो यही है कंडीशन, आगे जाके सुप्रामेंटल होंगे तो देखेंगे, बट अभी यही है कंडीशन, तो टाइम टू टाइम वीडिंग करनी पड़ेगी अपने अंदर और अपने बाहर, और टाइम टू टाइम एफर्ट पुट करना पड़ेगा, because the we see, as you were sharing, the moment we lose, we become complacent, again all those weeds grow up again. For a very very long time this continues.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, anything more, anyone, before we do the practice? All right, so let's do a little practice, maybe of say 10 to 15 minutes, if uh, people can bring their attention for 10 to 15 minutes. So we'll just close our eyes if you want to. If, if you want to make them open, open is also fine. Take a deep, long breath and exhaling it out. Another deep and long, and exhaling. And last, another deep, long, conscious breath. Exhaling it. And now thinking of all the people in our lives who we think are suffering, not really happy, have troubles, either physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain. And if you see that you are in physical, emotional, mental pain, please consider that also. That now I understand the pain of so many others like me who are suffering. Now I understand their suffering. So connecting with the suffering and pain of other sentient beings, and with the long in breath, taking all that suffering in, letting it go into our front emotive heart, the center of our chest. May it all come to me. And with the exhale, visualizing that my heart is oozing out light and peace and rest to everyone, all the limitless sentient beings. And their heart is peaceful, they're feeling easy, they're at ease and peace with themselves. So we continue this for some moments with the in-breath. May all their suffering and the causes of their suffering come to me, taking it into the center of the chest. And with the out breath, may lots of light, peace, clarity, and joy become a part of their being. May they not suffer. If there are people around you, please include them also, their suffering also in your practice. all the people who help you, who are there, your helpers, include them also in your practice. Continuing the cycles of inhaling the suffering and causes of suffering of limitless sentient beings, of people you know or you don't know, taking it all in the center of our chest, and exhaling lots of light and clarity and peace and happiness and joy in life for all of them. May all of us not suffer, and may all the causes of suffering be taken away. People who you may have fights with or arguments or clashes with, including them also in the in the practice, in inhaling their suffering, their unease, their cause of suffering, taking it all in. And with the out breath, radiating from our heart lots of light, peace, clarity, and joy. And if you consciously are leaving one or two people, you are not including them in the practice, bring them on also. Include them in the practice, no matter how resistant you feel. Just do it. All of us want to be happy, and everything that we do in ignorance causes us suffering. But we don't want to cause ourselves suffering, we want to be happy. And now imagine the whole planet full of peace, light, clarity, joy, progress, lots of progress on the whole planet. And people at ease with themselves within their hearts. Ease and joy and progress in everybody's life. And the whole planet beaming with the light and the radiance So we can apply this anytime that we ourselves begin to suffer or have some kind of mental and emotional trouble. The moment I become conscious of it, I can actually make it my practice that now I understand how much we suffer, and now I can empathize with other people's pain and suffering. So making that a part of our practice only. Our own problems can become part of our practice, raw material for our practice. So we can do it anytime. It's a very good use of time and good use of our headaches and pains and troubles also. Yeah, so any last comments, anyone, before we end? So this ends the verse number 11. I think next time we will start with verse 12. Yeah, anything anyone wants to add on or share? All right, so thank you everyone for joining in today. And let us continue wherever we are, whether we are walking, lying down, whether we have our phone with us, not the phone with us, whether we are with people, without people. Every time, we can make use of the time and do some practice, which is good for us and good for all the people around us also. Yeah. So wishing everyone a good time or a good night, I think most of us, and good evening to Nandini. And yeah,
Thank you.
thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.